Hi folks, let's review. There are several ways to determine volume depending on the substance that you're trying to find the volume of. Remember that volume is how much space an object takes up. If you're trying to find the volume of a liquid, you first have to determine how much each of the little lines on the graduated cylinder are worth. Each one of these lines is worth 1. And this is how you can tell. This is 80, this is 90. In between, we have 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. This would be 86, 87, 88, 89, and 90. On this graduated cylinder, each small line is worth 0.2. And here's how you can tell. If you look between the 8 and the 9, there are 4 lines. So that would mean that this line right here is worth 8.2. 8.4, then 8.6, 8.8, and then finally 9. Once you've determined how much each line on the graduated cylinder is, you're ready to measure the volume of your liquid. So you pour your liquid into your graduated cylinder. And then what you're going to want to do is get down eye level in order to measure it. You're going to look for that curved line. The curved line is called the meniscus. So when you get down here on eye level, you're going to see the bottom of the curved line. And that's where you're going to read your graduated cylinder. So let's take a look. To read this graduated cylinder, we just count. Here's 80, 81, 82, 83, and 84. So we know now that there's 84 milliliters in this graduated cylinder. Well, that's how to find the volume of liquid. That's easy enough. But how would you find the volume of this marble? Remember that solids have volume too. Volume is the amount of space that something takes up. You can't just take the marble and throw it in the graduated cylinder and say, okay, well, that's my volume. Instead, you're going to use something called water displacement. The first thing that you want to do is pour water into your graduated cylinder. It doesn't matter how much water you put in there because you're just going to use the water to measure. Next, you're going to read the graduated cylinder. Here's 50, here's 55, 56, and 57. So it looks like there's 57 milliliters in this graduated cylinder right now. Next, we're going to take our marble. We're going to drop the marble into the graduated cylinder. Now, when you do this, make sure that you tip the graduated cylinder so that the water doesn't splash out. There we go. Next, you read the graduated cylinder again. Here's 50, 55, 56, 57, 58. Looks like that's 59. Originally, the measurement was 57. It's now 59. In water displacement, you take the difference between the first measurement and the last measurement after you drop the marble in. In this case, the difference of the water is 2 milliliters. So that means that the object has a volume of 2. So now that you figured out that it has a volume of 2, we have to ask ourselves, what unit do we use? Well, if it was a liquid, we'd use the unit milliliters. However, we're measuring the volume of a solid. The volume of a solid always has a unit of cubic centimeters. So even though we took the difference of the liquid in milliliters, our final volume of the marble is 2 cubic centimeters. There's a third way to measure volume as well. If you have a solid that's the shape of a cube or a rectangular shape, like this, you don't have to use water displacement. Besides, it would be really hard to get this into the graduated cylinder. Instead, all you need is a ruler and a calculator. Here's how you do it. The first thing you're going to do to determine the volume of this rectangle is you're going to look at your ruler and see what side of the ruler you have to measure with. In science class, we use the centimeter or millimeter side of the ruler. If you take a look at the ruler here, these big numbers are the centimeters. The little slashes in between are millimeters. If you look at the bottom of the ruler, that's where your inches are. And again, in science, we don't use those numbers. We use centimeters or millimeters. Once you determine what side of the ruler you're going to measure with, you just start measuring. You determine your length. The length of this box is about 25 centimeters. When you're done determining the length, you determine the width of the box. The width of this box is 6 centimeters. And then finally, you're going to determine the height of the box. The height is 13.5 centimeters. Once you have the length, the width, and the height, you can put that in your calculator to determine the volume. So let's do that. So remember, the length was 25, so we have 25 times, the width was 6, times 13.5. And then equals. We come out with 2,025. So we've determined that the volume of this is 2,025. And because this is a solid, the unit would be cubic centimeters. So the volume of this, 2,025 cubic centimeters.